Welcome back to another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV. I'm your host, Gary Malefsky, and the publisher of Cyber Defense Magazine. Sitting in my hot seat today is Emmanuel Benzakin, who is the CEO of Checkmarx. C-H-E-C-K?
M-A-R-X.
M-A-R-X. And Checkmarx,
C-K-M-A-R-X, yes.
It's a cool name. Emmanuel, Checkmarx is helping people better code so that their apps are more secure. It's helping us find weaknesses in our apps before we get deployed and get exploited with our code vulnerabilities?
Absolutely. I mean, we cover the whole SDLC, software development lifecycle. So we try to help developers throughout the development lifecycle producing better apps.
Am I in my IDE or my development environment and I'm noticing as I'm about to write some SQL calls that it says this could cause a SQL injection flaw? Don't do this. Here's better code. Is that the kind of environment?
Absolutely, and not only that, we even have some add-on on our platform that really helps say, hey, this is an idea about how you should do it better. And we even show the flow and prove the flow of the vulnerabilities. So it's very interesting for developers.
So the developer starts to actually learn security tools and techniques they didn't have before. You're building up that tool belt for the developer to actually build a house that's not going to fall apart. In coding, we were never trained with, the wall should be this thick, the electrical connector should be this thick because it might burn the house down, right? So when we code, we weren't given the tools to build solid foundations.
That's right.
And you're giving us those tools.
That's right, and we're doing it in a manner that is non-intrusive to the developer because we all been developers in our past lives, and I think what's important is we bring that value, but at the end of the day, we don't prevent developers from doing their job, which is producing code.
Can any developer in a small business, medium size, or is this only for the big guys?
It's for everybody, and of course we have a lot of traction, and since we started 13 years ago with the big guys, but today I think the awareness is across the board.
So I have a mobile app from my bank. The developer may or may not have been smart enough about keyloggers. Lately on the phones, we all get the emoji keyboard, right? A third-party app made in China. Oops. Are you going to help that developer who's writing that mobile version of the bank app, or is it only for the cloud and the web? Where are you helping them?
Yeah, we're helping them across the board. It doesn't really matter where they are. As long as there is code to be developed, we can fit in. And we have a very broad language support, and so we can fit in and help them as developing whatever.
Perl, PHP, Java, MySQL,
pretty
whatever,
much you name
any
it,
language
yeah.
I'm using, any database structure, you're going to say, listen, this is the right way to write this code.
That's pretty much the case, and of course you will see a high concentration in .NET and Java and JavaScript that covers the vast majority of developments, but you have also some language like Pythons and PHP and whatnot that are being used by our customer base.
Now, there's a lot of hype about AI and machine learning and cybersecurity. Is there any AI or machine learning or heuristics and knowledge about potentially bad code, or is it all understanding static analysis?
It's both. It's both. We started with understanding static analysis because, again, about 13 years ago, I think that was how that industry started back in the early 2000s. But today, it's all around AI. AI is part of our understanding about the code and code flows. We inject that into our own product. We use the wisdom of the crowd to really understand, okay, if you get a report with 1,000 high vulnerability rank, which one you're going to address first? And we use heuristics and we use AI to make sure we can guide developers and the AppSec team to focus on these.
Is there a standard yet? Because I know in CVE, Common Vulnerability and Exposure, we're talking about post-production. The app is in the field, the router's in the field, the switch is in the field, and oops, it needs to be patched. Oops, it has a vulnerability that allows remote exploitation. That's a well-known standard by MITRE. Common Vulnerability and Exposure, CVE. Is there a Checkmarx way of are you part of a standard, or is there no standard yet
we're
for
very
common code problems?
Right. So we're very familiar, of course, with CVEs. It depends who you ask about the code standard. I think at the end of the day, everybody would agree on a certain degree of or scoring vulnerability, but it's very proprietary. I mean, we have our own way of prioritizing the vulnerabilities. And that comes with experience. Of course, we have a very advanced research team and we've scanned billions and billions of lines of codes over the years. So we've developed our own knowledge about what is truly exploitable and how we prioritize the vulnerabilities.
You know, there's something that people ignore, but I want to jump into, which is very interesting. You're in my hot seat. The United States has 330 million people. We have the most patents in the world. Japan and Israel are two tiny countries, and they both are almost tied for the second most patents in the world. How has that happened?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, think of the population of the United States, 330 million, as you said, and Japan has well over 100 million, and then Israel has about 8 million. So that also put things in perspective. I think we have a very vibrant community and research and developing community, especially in the security space. And that's probably one good explanation. Also, we're in the forefront of a lot of things that have to do with security in Israel, as you might know. And I think it really creates everybody that has an idea there, want to make sure that we can develop something around that. And that's why this is a very active community of people with ideas and as a result, patents and companies that are coming out of these as a result of these patents.
The reason I brought that up is Checkmarx, founded in Israel, U.S. headquarters. How's it designed? Where's all this genius engineering of looking at code flaws? Because it does take geniuses to know this stuff.
Yes, I think the genius is really issued out of Israel, best of breed army and special IT forces in the Israel Defense Forces. This is where really the product was born. My co-founder and partner. And what we've done over the years, and the company is headquartered out of Israel, although today it has more employees outside of Israel, obviously, as our market is essentially a Western market and all over the world, for that matter. So this is how it works really for us, and that's a pretty standard way of going out for these companies. We've seen
first firewall in the world, Checkpoint, right out of Israel. First antivirus. I mean, you guys are a little bit ahead of the curve. So you do have U.S. sales offices. You have a U.S. team.
Yeah, so
it's a big team.
Yeah, it's a pretty big team. It's actually not just offices. We have sales offices. We have like support functions. We have pre-sales, post-sales, sales engineering, and we have some R&D functions as well in North America. We also have some of design center in Europe as well, and have these functions across the world, whether it's in APAC. We're about 13 offices around the world, so we're a truly global company.
And you're growing fast.
Growing very fast, faster than we can absorb sometimes.
It's hard to absorb sometimes. So the excitement, though, is that you're one of the first companies to realize that the root cause analysis of exploitation is poor coding practices.
Absolutely.
It's not that I'm a coder. I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. We weren't trained to write secure code. And you're helping train them. Do you have a certification program, or is it in the process of developing? By the time I'm done writing my app, I've learned a lot of new things.
So we have both. The training comes as an afterthought. Really, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we help people scanning their code right, and at the same time, we educate them in that process. So they get sort of both at the same time. And if you become a better developer, a better coder, I think it makes you more valuable, and that's all we want.
So where should our visitors go?
Checkmarx.com is a good
But there's an X at the end, there's no K.
There is an X at
no
the
S.
end.
Okay.
There's a K in the middle, it's CHECKMARX.
M-A-R-X.
That's right.
So we're going to send them to checkmarx.com, learn more about your company. Anybody can afford this if they're into developing code? Or they can't live without it, actually?
Yes, I think, of course, size, there's not one size fits all. Companies that have a bigger footprint and a bigger attack exposure will be able to function well. We're an enterprise solution.
Enterprise solution.
But as we grow as a company, we want to make sure that we can offer the broader audience. So that's what we're working on.
Sounds great. Well, Emmanuel, this is a great hot seat interview. I really appreciate it. Again, I want to send our visitors, especially if you're in a large or medium-sized enterprise, banking, credit unions, insurance companies, government agencies, healthcare, whoever's writing that code needs this tied in to help them do a better job and be a secure coder, because that's the root cause of exploitation. Write your code, but write it the right way. And then come back another time for an exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV. Thank you.